Anthony. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your 8-month mindfulness course. I believe it's 32 weeks of practice, and it's quite unique. I don't know anybody else doing this. Would you like to give us some idea of the content and what it's about?
Well, I think when we start meditating, the first very commonly taught is the 8-week mindfulness course, and that seems to be a very widely taught form of different mindfulness schools or organizations. 8 weeks seems to be a very popular time period. So we'll go through the basic ABC of what it means to meditate, how to use mindfulness support, so we do all of that. But then the real learning, of course, in a sense only really starts when we've very often finished the course, and then we start making the practice our own through our own individual daily practice of being mindful. So I think the 8-month course offers people a supportive environment where they have the advantage of working in a group, where they can learn from each other, where we learn how to listen. What does it mean to listen mindfully? What does it mean to really be present? And so there's the supportive group where you get the great camaraderie of being with a fellow practitioner. And also where the first hour, because the sessions are 2 hours, which seems long, but I find it necessary. The first hour is where the group will talk about their individual practice, where any questions that are arising of their practice are worked with, any difficulties, anything they don't understand. And then the second hour is continuing to deepen their practice and also look at new practices they can do to add to their current experience of meditation. So meditation is, I think, fundamentally dealing with ourselves. So the first part of our journey is definitely going to be about our individual psychology. It has to be, because that's what we're working with. We cannot experience anything outside of our mind. And the mind that we have at present is this world mind that we all kind of share, in the sense of we have the same similar habits, similar neuroses and ways of functioning. And we realize that as human beings that functionality is full of flaws. It is very subject to suffering, and by nature is a very fragile process. And we don't have to look very far to see that, how feelings can come upon us unwanted, how we are thrown so easily by events. It shows us the fragility of the human psyche. So meditation is the means by which we begin to work very directly with ourselves, and where we learn the skill through our mindfulness practice and how to work with this highly reactive inner situation. And then, of course, the big emphasis is on the one golden quality, which is about loving kindness and compassion, that the heart is the one thing, if we truly understand the language of the heart, which is love and compassion, and how love, when it meets the world and it is active in the world, is called compassion. How when we start working with that, then we really start integrating in the truest sense what meditation means. Then another very important thing about our practice is that I'm working with me and we begin to experience the relational nature I have with me. In other words, within our mind, there's a whole dynamic of relationship which is quite honestly dysfunctional. So as human beings, we are functionally dysfunctional, and we never question that because we're all doing the same thing. But when we really start looking at our own minds, we begin to see our fundamental lack of compassion, how incredibly judgmental we are in how we relate to ourselves. And then, of course, because we're living in a society, we're very gregarious creatures, that will have ramifications because it will spill out onto our relationships with others. And so we're caught in this dynamic of what we could call unskillfulness, this unskillful dynamic of the human condition, which is highly reactive and by its nature continues to ricochet and feed energy back into the same mess. So we have our individual mess, and we have the dynamics within our own mind which feed energy back into the same mess, and that is projected outside into the world, where the world is functioning from the same place, and we see how very real change is very difficult in the world. What does that mean? It means that we can look at our history as human beings, and we see that we have made many strides in the areas of medicine and science, and that way there's been change. But in the fundamental change that is the most important is that we haven't made any very little strides at all, and that there's still war, there's still violence, there's still inequality, there's still all the things that we do to each other, between nations, between individuals, between families, which still creates chaos. So that is the thing, the one thing that we haven't understood. And meditation is teaching us how to do that. And why it is that we seem unable to work skillfully, because we don't know what it means to look within. And when we do look within, we don't know what the skills are necessary to work with this highly reactive mind. So another very important aspect that we start looking at within the 8-month course, which needs that time, is that meditation isn't something that you do, it's something that you are. And so it's learning to integrate the doing aspect of our world, in other words, how we function in the world, how to really integrate meditation into that so that we shift from a place of doing to a place of being. I'm reminded of the words of Jesus when he said, "In him I live and move and have my being." So when Jesus said that, he was actually being sort of displaying his great understanding of what the end result of meditation is. Because in meditation, through our activity, there can still be the process of being. Through the noise of world, we can still be resting in the inner silence of the peaceful mind. Through the chaos of world, we can still have enormous clarity and purpose and energy to be a benefit to others, so that we can move in the world, because he said be in the world but be not of the world. We can be in the world and not be of the world. What not being of the world means, our minds are no longer diluted and distorted by the craziness of world, for the simple reason we are now learning the skill to work with our own distortion and craziness. So you can't do it from the outside. You can only do it from the inside, because it's the inside which shows us the real dynamic. When we make meditation very personal and we discover its extraordinary intimacy in touching us from the inside, that's the only way we can truly understand how to what practice is all about. So it's all about that. So this integration of mindfulness into everyday life is incredibly important.
Can I ask you a question, Anthony? I notice you're saying people need to have done an 8-week course first. Could you just enlighten us on that?
Well, the 8-week course, because of social media, and I think today it's even more complicated because of social media, which is a mixed blessing, because I think on one hand it's incredibly helpful, but there again it's a typical example. We've created something and we lack the maturity to use it properly. So you get all the dark side. Interesting enough, you look at the internet, it's a direct reflection of our mind. Mm-hmm. It is. It's an outer projection. We've recreated what's happening within us. So there's the light and the dark. I mean, it's ridiculous that there's even a dark web. In psychology we talk about, the shadow. Jung talked about the shadow. Well, we've created it. It's there. But there's also the heights, the very beautiful, positive things, which is there as well. So it's very interesting that we've just done it again. So I've digressed slightly. So why is the 8-week important? Well, because of the ease of communication with the internet, there's a lot of misunderstanding. So ideas can travel at a push of a button across the globe in a matter of seconds. So there's a lot of sometimes deliberate misinformation, but also a lot of, from some well-meaning people, a lot of misunderstanding about meditation because they haven't had the proper instruction. So the 8-week course is really showing us the ABC, what meditation really is, and also what it isn't, so there's a clear and a firm foundation on which to build.
Anthony, would you like to comment on, often somebody maybe has done a course, an 8-week course, and they often come to our organisation and say, yeah, done it, got the badge, done the 8-week, and maybe that's it. They don't think they have to practice past an 8-week course. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, there's nothing you can really do about that, because mindfulness is taking on, it's about taking on responsibility for your own mind, which means taking responsibility for your own life, which then means being a better citizen, which then will mean having a positive impact on the world. So the real change in world, there's no magic wand we're going to wave and the world is just going to change. It has to come from the individual. It can only come from the individual when we take responsibility, and we can only take responsibility when we gain the confidence that real change is possible. And so meditation has a flawless track record. It really, really works. It's been around for thousands of years, and it's produced, if you look at Buddhism, for example, which is one of the main sources where mindfulness has been taught, it has been around for 2,525 years and has consistently produced extraordinary human beings simply because they practiced. So, if they can do it, we can do it.
So would you say that it's not an 8-week course really, it's a life skill?
It's a life skill.
Learning mindfulness.
It's not what you do, it's what you are. Meditation is us. It is our natural state. The mind's natural state is in fact that process of meditation. It is that light of awareness that we have. It is that, and the qualities that are inherent within that are right within us right now. It's not something that we discover on some mountaintop in the Himalayas. It's right within our very being. And the irony is that it's with us all the time. Everything we need is already perfect and complete within us. But we don't know how to recognize it. So meditation is showing us, how do I recognize my true potential, which is my deepest nature? How do I recognize it? We recognize it through meeting our mind, meeting the worldly mind in a skillful way, which stops feeding energy into getting stuck with worldly mind. And in doing that, only then is there a possibility to notice anything else. Otherwise, there's no way of... We're in it all the time. There's no possibility of finding anything else because we kept active throughout the whole process of the way we function. So meditation is allowing a space in the mind where we have some objectivity, in some clarity. So we begin to notice, so there is something else here. What is that? And eventually we begin to discover this quality of awareness. So an image that is often used that comes from Buddhism is the sky and clouds. So they say the mind is like the sky, and our habitual thoughts and feelings are the clouds. So at the moment we identify with cloud. We think the sky is just cloud. It's just grey, We don't know the nature of sky, but eventually, once we see the nature of sky, then the understanding of cloud changes completely, absolutely completely. So there's a huge paradigm shift eventually in the meditator from obsession of content obsession, to really seeing through it, to resting more and more in the sky-like nature of one's own mind. And that's the very beginning of true freedom in the mind.
So what I understand from what you're saying as well, the 8-week course that we all embark on with mindfulness is just the first step. It's the beginning. It's just the first step. The first important step. And then again, it's up to the individual. So and you see, mindfulness came to the West because it's incredibly, the first part of our psychology is, in order to begin to see it first, needs to be some stillness in the mind. So with stillness, with genuine peace, that's, to most of us, that is absolutely wonderful, and it is to have genuine peace of the mind. But that's not the goal. That's not the goal, the only goal of meditation. That's just the foundation of it. Because from the peace, there's clarity. From the clarity comes understanding. From the understanding, true understanding or wisdom dawns. With wisdom, then that begins the process of transformation. It is only when there's understanding, and understanding means something has changed. If something hasn't changed, I can't understand. But when it does change, it shows that there is something. When I do understand something, then obviously that understanding is because something has changed. So change and understanding, or transformation and wisdom, are inseparable things. And then, of course, the big learning for us is about compassion. That compassion is the essential ingredient. Without that, no change is possible. Without compassion, no real progress is possible. Thank you.